I know that there's all these names floating around about who it should be. And I don't know if Asia's going to win the MVP this season. But it's A'ja Wilson's league, and it still is. She is still the best player in the world. She is still the best player in the WNBA. Whether or not she wins the MVP, I don't know, because there are a lot of politics that go into that. I think there's some A'ja fatigue going around of, oh, well, she's won it 3 times. Let's give it to someone else. Who else is out there? Who else is exciting? But A'ja, if she keeps performing this way, is making a huge case to win it for a 4th time. Welcome into South Carolina Sideline, everybody. I am Matt Dowell alongside Claire Foley once again. Welcome onto the sideline. So excited for a new week. As always, Claire, so many things to talk about and get into. You know, I went into today saying, like, what are we going to talk about on the podcast? It was kind of quiet. Not a lot going on.
And then you think about it.
And then the week started and things started rolling in. So really, really excited. First of all, before we start, I want to say thank you to everybody for all the love that the Roscoe Wilson interview is getting. It's been one of our most popular episodes so far, and the reaction has been really, really nice. It's been really good. It's all been so complimentary, and I'm so glad you guys enjoyed it. You know, my part was easy. Roscoe did all the talking and all the storytelling. The Wilson family is just amazing. But I was very, very excited for everyone to see that interview, and I'm excited that it continues to do well and that you guys all enjoyed that episode. And I'm thankful for Roscoe for coming on. I hope he comes back. Hopefully Eva will come on. I've talked to her, so hopefully we'll have, you know, a raising A'ja Wilson, like mom's perspective, you know, I don't know. So hopefully that'll happen. But really, really just, again, thank you to everybody for all the kind words, and the response has been very overwhelming and very positive, and that's been awesome.
And hey, you know, the nice thing about that too is that the stories aren't going to stop coming. They're just going to add to it and add to it. So it'll just be a recurring guest.
Yeah,
we'll just keep having him on.
And it actually was a very timely interview, Claire, because let's go into our first topic, and that is about A'ja Wilson, because she continues to just do unbelievable things on the basketball court, setting records all the time. I mean, all the time. And if the Aces were struggling to start the season, it's looking a lot better in these last couple of weeks. Claire, let's get into it, because A'ja Wilson doing something that no WNBA player has ever done before, and that is a 30-point, 20-rebound performance. On Sunday against the Connecticut Sun, she had 32 points, 20 rebounds. Again, nobody has ever done that before in league history. Think of all of the great post players this league has had, and A'ja stands alone in that. It's amazing to see the ceilings that she continues to like break through and set new records and create new possibilities. It's really unbelievable to watch.
And that's what's so funny is you say it's never been done before, and we're going to hear from her in a little bit, but it's also just A'ja being A'ja.
Yeah.
Like, she didn't even realize she did it.
Yeah.
And, like,
and she's not like...
she's just doing her own thing.
And she's not trying to set these records. She really is just playing and trying to win the basketball game. And the stats just come because she is that incredible. You know, she celebrated her birthday, 29. And I talked about that with Roscoe. She's only 29 years old, like newly 29, and she's done all of these things before 30 years old. It's really amazing, and I hope everyone appreciates what A'ja's doing on the basketball court, because the term generational talent, I think, is overused nowadays, but A'ja is a generational talent, and she's putting on performances that are just incredible night in and night out. And when you look at where the Aces are going, I know we'll talk about this in a little bit, but they're starting to move up the standings, and it is because of A'ja and her leadership and her play.
And I don't think she is unequivocally a star. No matter what team she's on, she's going to be a star. But I don't think anyone would characterize her as like a selfish player.
No, not at all.
And that's something that we have heard from players and is seen ourselves. Starts with Dawn Staley and how she coaches her team. But I think that's what's so special about her too, because you can definitely see in basketball today, you have your stars and it's just, oh, dish them the ball. Just get it to them. But I don't see that in her game. And I think that's what makes it so much more special, is that you can have someone that shines that way, is setting records in that way, but it's not all about her.
Yeah. The first thing she said in her press conference after that performance was just about her teammates and how good they are and how they get her the ball and how, they just all work well together. So it was an immediate selfless response to everything. But then, go ahead.
I was going to say, and we talked about how the Aces have struggled this year. That's something that they talked about maybe was what was missing compared to in past years, the sort of doing it for each other and having that heart. And so to have her as the leader just keep bringing it back to that and have that be sort of a refocusing moment of, okay, we do need everybody in this moment to succeed, to continue into this season. Let's do it now.
And this is an Aces team too that has a lot of veterans on it, a lot of experience, and so they know how it works. They didn't panic when when everything was looking really, really dim at the beginning of the season. They didn't panic, and they're starting to look a lot better. We'll get into that a little in just a second, but first we spoke about A'ja Wilson going to press, addressing her history-making game. Here's what A'ja had to say after her 32-point, 20-rebound performance against the Connecticut Sun.
It's huge. Actually, Caroline was telling me that walking here. I didn't even know because, as many greats as we have in this league, that's kind of a shocker that it's just now happening now. But, it's a blessing. I love what I do. I love it so much. So anytime that I could come out and just play the basketball the way that I love it in the team and we're all getting involved, I'm happy with that. So it's pretty cool to have my name in the record books when it comes to that. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a lot following up. So, yeah, it's pretty cool to kind of be the first one.
And A'ja Wilson, I know that the records do mean a lot to her, but at the end of the day, she's focused on the team. And when you look at the standings, Claire, the Aces are slowly going up. And, the Lynx are way ahead of everybody right now. The Liberty and the Dream doing well. But right now, they're in that 6th spot. But a lot of those mid teams are all kind of close to each other. If the Aces can keep winning, a top 4 seed is not impossible. And I don't know, when you have all these veterans and you have A'ja clicking the way she is, the Aces are slowly starting to get into the conversation.
And that's what, no matter what the sport, how you talked about before, they weren't panicking when things weren't going well at the beginning of the year. It's because when you have that sort of maybe underdog fight in you, when you're a cusper, no matter what the sport, that can be dangerous for a lot of teams because as you're getting hot, all it takes is somebody else to either get distracted, not have their foot on the gas the same way, maybe have some injuries, things that go down in that way, and you just slowly start to creep up.
And that's all it takes, especially when you have veterans. Experience matters so much in all sports. And when you have players who have won multiple championships, they don't panic when the going gets tough. And I think everyone always has to remember that. And I'm also going to say this regarding the MVP race, because I know that there's all these names floating around about who it should be. And I don't know if A'ja is going to win the MVP this season. But it's A'ja Wilson's league, and it still is. She is still the best player in the world. She is still the best player in the WNBA. Whether or not she wins the MVP, I don't know, because there are a lot of politics that go into that. I think there's some A'ja fatigue going around of, oh, well, she's won it 3 times. Let's give it to someone else. Who else is out there? Who else is exciting? But A'ja, if she keeps performing this way, is making a huge case to win it for a 4th time. And whether or not, even if she doesn't, Claire, it is Asia's league, and that's not changing.
And that's what you have to take into consideration. Like, yeah, we talked about the A'ja fatigue. Like, let somebody else have a turn. That's not what the award's about.
No.
No. This isn't a participation trophy. No. If she continues to set these records, be the face of the sport, what are you going to do? Give it to somebody else just because?
And also,
what does that do for the sport?
Exactly. And when you look at the Aces, when you look at the literal meaning of the award, most valuable player, the Aces were doing terribly at the start of the season. And now when you look at where they are in the standings, that's because of A'ja. She's the one that is literally grabbing the team by their jerseys and like pulling them up and saying, let's win these games. They're not doing this without her. She is the reason for their success. Again, she would get my vote as of now. I don't know if I would have said that at the beginning of the season, but you got to, when it comes to narratives and all that, you got to change as the season changes, And right now, A'ja is performing like the MVP. And again, whether or not she wins it, she is the best player in the world.
And that's what people do like to do is you set the narrative at the beginning of the season. Oh, A'ja doesn't have it anymore. This isn't her year. This is a bad year. And then when things start to change, it's like, Well, no, no,
people
that's
don't
the
change
story.
their opinions.
Yeah.
Claire, it drives me crazy. You just
Oh,
like
God. What did I do?
You just hit a spot for me. But that just drives me crazy. I hate when people don't change their opinions as the season changes, because that's what sports is about. You know,
Right.
things are not always the same. But A'ja Wilson in the MVP conversation, I'm really curious to see if the voters, you know, will give it to her. I'm interested to see how it all plays out, you know, in this next month or so. But hey, it's Asia's league. Don't hate on me. It is. She's the best player in the world. We're going to take a time out here on South Carolina's sideline. Up next, Gamecock football getting ready for the upcoming season, and the AP preseason poll drop-in, and South Carolina ranked for the first time in over a decade. We'll talk Gamecock football right after this. South Carolina football with a lot of hype, a lot of expectations going into this new season. August 31st is quickly approaching. It's just everything flies by in the sports world. But we'll talk about the AP preseason poll because, Claire, South Carolina, they were ranked number 13 in the coaches poll, which came out last week, I believe. And now we were all kind of waiting to see where the media members would put South Carolina, because I'm always curious to see where the coaches, like where they think everyone should go. And then today, the AP poll, which is the media members who vote on that. And South Carolina, Claire, ranked number 13, which is the same as the coaches poll, which I thought was very interesting. And again, I said it during the coaches poll. I'll say it again here. I think 13 is a fair place to put South Carolina.
Yeah, I think that kind of like what we were talking before about the Asia fatigue, you don't want to get poll fatigue either. And since the conversation has been so high on the Gamecocks, you don't want to become used to it, because thinking of it historically, like we've talked about in past weeks, it is something special. You said before, this is the first time that South Carolina has been ranked in the AP poll at the beginning of the season since 2014.
Yeah.
So it definitely is a big seal of approval, at least for how the team is looking so far, again, based on their performance at the end of the season last year. So you don't want to get used to it, but it also wasn't surprising because of the previous two polls before it, where they were ranked 5th in the SEC and 13th in the coaches poll.
Yeah, and I'm very excited. And again, this is the first time in over a decade that they've been ranked in this top 25. I think it's an exciting place for South Carolina to be. Before we kind of look at what this means for their schedule, because how things play out and how quickly things change. A top 10 rankings not out of the picture when you think of that first month of the season.
Right.
But Claire, here is what the AP Top 25 preseason poll looks like. I'll go 1 through 25. Texas is the number 1 ranked team in the country to start the season. The coaches also felt that way, and they were predicted to win the SEC. So the Longhorns, all the pressure is on y'all. So Texas is the overwhelming favorite to start the season out number 1. And they did get 25 first place votes. And what was interesting to me, Claire, in this AP poll is Penn State is number 2. They got 23 first place votes. So I just contradicted myself because I said overwhelming favorite. So according to media members, there's a lot of belief in Penn State, which I find interesting. Because for me, Penn State's one of those teams that has a lot of talent. Maybe it doesn't come through in the end, but we'll break down all this in a second. I need to go faster because I've only gone through 2 spots. Ohio State is 3. Clemson is number 4, which I find interesting. They were number 6 in the coaches poll, but in the top 5 in the AP. And these are the official rankings that they'll use like on TV and stuff, not the coaches poll. It's the AP poll that you'll see like in the scoreboard graphics and all that kind of stuff when you watch the games. Georgia is 5, Notre Dame 6, Oregon 7, Bama is 8, LSU 9, Miami 10. So that is the top 10. And then you have Arizona State at number 11, Illinois at 12, who of course beat South Carolina in the Cheez-It Bowl. Right after Illinois is South Carolina at 13. Then you go Michigan 14, Florida 15. Number 16 is SMU, who of course made the college football playoff last year, lost that heartbreaker to Clemson in the ACC championship game. You have Kansas State at 17, Oklahoma 18, Texas A&M 19, number 20 is Indiana, and then rounding out the top 25 is Ole Miss, Iowa State, Texas Tech, Tennessee, who's on the lower end of these rankings, and then Boise State rounds out the top 25. So when we look at those rankings, Claire, and what that means for South Carolina, first part of the schedule, really good. A lot of opportunities to go 5-0. When you look at, they start against Virginia Tech, then SC State, and then they got Vandy, Mizzou, Kentucky. None of those teams are ranked in the preseason poll. Of course, that could change.
Sure.
And then though, it gets tough. 6 of the last 7 are against teams in this preseason top 25. It starts with LSU in week 6, then Oklahoma, then Alabama, then Ole Miss, then Texas A&M. They host Coastal Carolina after that, and then of course they wrap up the season against Clemson. So 6 of the last 7. That's a tough stretch. So Claire, that was a lot. As I broke down those rankings, your thoughts on that, especially regarding the Gamecocks.
I think that if they were to go 5-0 to start, that would be huge to their confidence, especially with so many things that are different this year. I think there's a whole lot riding on Lenore Sellers to come in his second year as starter and be that guy again that all this hype is centered around. So if he can go in this non-conference slate and build up that confidence, really find his guys and have that locked in before you get to the second half of the season, which is where he really hit his stride last year. And there were a lot of games last year, particularly in conference play, that just came down to a couple plays a game.
And sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it.
I was going to say too, when you think about what happened at the end of last season, that, the 3 losses didn't get them in the playoffs. So that kind of sends a message of, okay, 2 losses is about all they can afford. Going beyond that, it's going to get tough. So when you look at those first 5 games, I think if you're the Gamecocks, you're saying these are must-win games. Because after that, you're playing at LSU, you're playing at some of these crazy environments. Some of those are going to be tough. And, they are going to lose. Well, I'm not going to say gonna, but like the chances of any college team losing in those tough road environments is high.
For sure.
So when you look at Virginia Tech, SC State, Vandy, which I think could be interesting, that could be an interesting matchup. Then you have Mizzou, Kentucky. Those are 5 very winnable games for South Carolina. And I think if they could find a way to start 5-0, that makes the second half I don't know what the word is, but it just makes it a little bit more like, okay, let's do this. There's not that pressure to, we cannot lose at all, at this point of the season. Does that make sense?
Give yourself a little bit of comfort.
Yes, thank you.
And when we look at last year, what kept them out of the playoffs, I know everybody loved the conversation about data points and strength of schedule, but you also have to remember the recency bias that has in people's minds. True. So to finish the back half of your schedule against all the 6 ranked opponents, I believe it is, in your last 7 games, that could go really well for you if you perform well in them. But also, like you said, if it's you just completely front-loaded your schedule and just die off from there. And of course, you have injuries and things like that come into play later on in the season too, getting some fatigue later on down the line. But so it'll be interesting to see. I think it can go either way for them, or it can go right down the middle, which has seemed what this team has been a lot of years.
Yeah, and I'm interested too. Things change so quickly. Mizzou got some votes in that top 25. They're not in the top 25, but they did get some votes. Vandy, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. So who knows? Some of those first 5 could be ranked by the time that they do play. Kentucky, not a lot of positivity surrounding that program at the moment, but there could be a couple more ranked opponents on the schedule by the time those games come around. I
think there will be some shift, because what I was going to say before, you pointed out Penn State and how you thought that was interesting to have them at number 2, and then with Clemson soon behind them. I think what's interesting there is Penn State had their strong defense last year. Well, now their defensive coordinator is with Clemson.
Yeah.
So what's that going to look like? So I think and naturally in these polls, there is some swing and shift as these games actually start, because it's all based on predictions and what people think is going to happen. I think there will start to be some wiggle room up in there.
And I will say this too, just so I like to give you guys info on how things work. I'm a AP poll voter for women's basketball, and so for something like this, for the AP poll for football, I'm not a voter for this one, but you don't talk to other voters. You just submit your poll blindly. You do your opinions, you submit your top 25, and it goes in. So this is just an average of everyone. So it's not like everyone gets on a Zoom call, or there's like a Google Doc where everyone's talking about, what do you guys think? No one talks to each other.
Not electing a pope.
No. So when you see South Carolina at 13 amongst the media, and the coaches also, It's interesting. There's a consistency there, which I
Right.
find very, very interesting. But it all starts on August 31st against Virginia Tech down in Atlanta. That will be here before you know it. And South Carolina will start the season as a ranked team, which is exciting. And I can't wait to see what they do. And who knows, again, they could be top 10, by week 3 with the way things works and, losses and all of that kind of stuff. So excited for the season to get underway. We're going to take one more break here on South Carolina sideline. There's a lot of excitement, newness, improvements coming to Williams-Brice Stadium. South Carolina Athletics Director Jeremiah Donati making a big announcement today. Claire was there at that press conference, and she's going to break down all of the news right after this. In this day and age of college athletics, everything is changing at a rapid pace, and money has become at such the forefront of every conversation, it seems like, today. And Claire, Jeremiah Donati, South Carolina's athletic director, making a big announcement about some improvements, some changes coming to Williams-Brice Stadium, which that has been underway for a couple of years now. But you were at the press conference today. What can you tell us about these changes, these updates, and what Donati had to say?
Well, obviously, these big changes take a lot of money.
Yes.
So to do so, they've had what Donati said was the single largest individual financial investment to the athletic department in history. So
That's a big statement.
So from one specific group, company, individual, the largest funds coming forward in one lump sum. And that's sticking close to home. And I think that's what's special as this college athletic landscape continues to change seemingly by the day, and more money is funneled into it. And it seems like maybe it's greed and running away with things like that. What I can appreciate about what South Carolina did here was being strategic in who the money is coming from and who they're giving representation to in this moment. And it's coming from a local family-owned business and Gamecock alums. So it's Blanchard Machinery. They're the bulldozers and rental things like that to do, whether it's at home projects or maybe big things like stadium renovations. They don't have the contract to do the actual construction of it, but they'll be helping out by providing the tools and the machinery to help make it possible. So the lump sum going towards the big project of upgrading the stadium, adding seating, video boards, upgrading the whole experience for fans there at Williams-Brice Stadium. But another cool, unique part of it is because they are a company and they're local, they're also going to be providing professional development opportunities to student athletes and internships, that kind of thing. So one thing that Donati said was it's really going to impact every single student athlete at South Carolina. And for this, the thing that you'll most noticeably see at Williams-Brice Stadium is that their two logos are being added onto the field. And I believe it was Jack Veltri asked him, okay, well, there were the palmetto trees on the field. Yeah. What's happening with those? What are we doing with those? And he said, don't worry, we're not saying just yet what's going to be happening to them, but they will be there. So they're not selling out. They're keeping the roots by keeping it with Gamecock alum, family-owned business, and the whole Blanchard family was there today with their kids, and like they have tiny little kids, toddlers, babies. They all had little Gamecock jerseys on and stuff like that running around the field. So it's really cool to see. And so at the announcement today, Jeremiah Donati talked about what specifically these funds will go to.
This investment will directly support and positively impact every single Gamecock student athlete, not only through financial support, but through professional development, internships, and postgraduate employment opportunities in tandem with our Gamecock Student Athlete Development Program. This is the largest individual investment into our athletics program, and like I know the Blanchards understand the significance of that.
So an exciting time for Gamecock athletics and a major move for Donati in his first year with South Carolina. This is a big time move and a big statement for him, and like what the kind of the tone that he's setting as the athletic director. So I thought that was cool for him in this new era.
And one thing is, it was also asked, of course, the palmetto trees, but also about the name Williams-Brice Stadium. Are there going to be any investments or sponsorships coming into play there? He said no, it will always be Williams-Brice Stadium, but they are they're starting with the big one to create conversations about maybe some of the other facilities on campus. So maybe some other sponsorships coming that way, whether it's on the field, on the court, or to the physical stadium.
And people have a lot of opinions on this, because of the way things are changing. And I know I've seen a lot of people talk about the logos on the field. Do you like it or do you not? And I think, whether or not, like, whatever your opinion is, this is just the way I think all sports are going, not even just college sports. I think the pros are going this way. You're probably going to have high schools doing this soon. I mean, it's just the way it is now.
We've had, you look at little leagues across the country. You have across the fences, local businesses have their banners. Forever we've seen in professional sports, they're doing the digital ones now. So they can just rotate through, having more and more. And especially, I hit the mic there, sorry about that. Getting really excited, especially as the landscape changes in college athletics. A lot of fans, they might complain about like where their team is sitting, and it's like, okay, well, if you want to compete, you need to invest. And how do you invest? You find investors. How do you encourage investors? You have to put their name somewhere. So it's a cycle. It's give and take. Do you want your team to be up in the best? Okay, well, you're gonna have to do what it takes then.
Yeah. That was a great explanation by Claire for everyone, because I think a lot of times in the business, when there's big business announcement, there's a lot going on, a lot of moving parts, of like, okay, what's happening? What does this mean, for the future and all that kind of stuff. So that was a great explanation for everyone to just kind of lay it out there of all the moving parts and, all of what Donati had to say. So yeah, because I think, even us when we're there, we're like, okay, what's, we're trying to lay it all out.
Right, because even we talk about how a lot of this is for the stadium upgrades, and you think, okay, well, that's for the fans. You want to encourage fans to come. Who else do you have to encourage to come? Recruits. They want to play in a stadium that's big like that. How do you get recruits to come? You have to pay them money, and then it's the NIL, and this and that, and all these things.
It
just piles up.
It's just like a trickle-down effect of everything. So it's pretty fascinating from a business perspective to see how everything impacts everything. Anything else you want to add today before we wrap up our show?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I do want to say, you said Little League. Shout out to the Irmo All-Stars. I know that they, are not the Gamecocks because they are Little League baseball players.
Future Gamecocks, maybe.
Maybe future Gamecocks, but they are in the Little League World Series. Shout out to Irmo. The way they got there was riveting, just dramatic and epic. But they're in the Little League World Series, and they are only the 4th team from the state of South Carolina to play in the Little League World Series. They're in Williams-Brice this week. We are cheering them on. We're excited to see how they do representing the Southeast. Let's go Irmo. I'm excited. I'm excited to watch them.
And hey, Gamecock Baseball shouted them out, so there's our tie-in.
There's our tie-in.
We're just reporting on what Gamecock Baseball said.
But their first game is on the 13th, which is on Wednesday. So exciting to see Irmo and how they do at the Little League World Series. So cool. Thank you as always, everyone, for watching and listening. You can find us here on YouTube or listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, leave us comments, all that good stuff. We really, really appreciate all the support as our podcast continues to grow. She's Claire Foley. I'm Matt Dowell. We'll see you here on Thursday for another episode of South Carolina Sideline.